U.S. Senator calls Sam Bankman-Fried to answer for failure of FTX and Alameda research. You must answer for the failure of both entities that was caused, at least in part, by the clear misuse of client funds and wiped out billions of dollars owed to over 1 million creditors, Senator Sherrod Brown told Bankman-Fried. The House Committee on Financial Service Brown explained that traditionally, witnesses who are invited to appear before the committee make themselves available voluntarily. He asked Bankman-Fried to respond to his staff by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday to discuss his participation at the hearing. And the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs are separately holding a hearing on the collapse of crypto exchange FTX next.
This economy added 263,000 jobs in November. That's a sign that the economy is still faring well despite aggressive efforts by the Federal Reserve to cool high inflation. The Fed will meet again next week to decide how much higher to raise interest rates, if at all. You're the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. What do you think they should do?
Well, I think that I tell Jay Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, this whenever we talk, that his allegiance is to two things. It's to keep inflation down. It's also to fight for a full employment economy. That dual the dual responsibility he has, and I think we're on track to do that. Job growth is still good. Inflation on gas prices are down to 3. The average, I think, in Ohio, at least in my neighborhood in Cleveland, 3.19, 3.29. That level, that's down sharply from several months ago. I think we're on the right track. We've got a lot to do.
Speaking of right track, the Senate passed legislation this week to avert a potentially devastating strike by railway workers. A push to include workers' key demand for 7 days of paid sick leave. That failed. Here's what one union member told CNN. Take a listen.
We have a pro-labor president who loves to, pat himself on the back for that. And when the going got tough, he turned his back on the people he's supposed to be looking out for. Joe Biden forced a contract on our unionized workers who voted against it.
Now, you, Senator, you voted to add the 7 days of paid leave, but after that amendment failed, you still voted for the final deal. How do you explain this to a union worker like Reese? It doesn't seem like Democrats were truly standing up with all of their force against these billion-dollar rail companies.
I mean, we have every Democrat but one voted for the sick pay days, the 7 sick days. Only 6 Republicans did. We couldn't get to 60 votes. I take a backseat to nobody in fighting for workers and fighting for union members and non-union members too. But the issue here is we have to keep the economy going. I'm going to go back and I'm working with staff, working with leader's office, working with the White House on how do we help these workers to make sure eventually they get these sick days. But we also know if there had been a strike, that literally hundreds of thousands, maybe more workers would have been out of work for a lengthy period of time. We have to look at the whole economy, but I will never lose my focus on those workers who didn't get as good a deal as we'd like to have had. But again, almost every Republican voted no. We're continuing to try to work bipartisanly with them and with the White House to fix this.
You just asked Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen this week to work with Congress to propose new regulations on cryptocurrency. That's after the recent collapse of the FTX crypto exchange. Congress has not done anything on this issue for years. You're the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. Why is it taking so long to pass any protections for Americans investing in cryptocurrency? And do you think that the millions of dollars that former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried donated to Democrats, do you think that has made a difference in blocking regulation?
No, first of all, he donated equally to both parties. This is not about FTX or one crypto company. This is about everything about national security, from Russian oligarchs to North Korean cyber criminals to gun runners to drug traffickers. This is that love the thought of using unregulated, unrestricted cyber. To say Congress has done nothing is not quite accurate. We've done exposing the problems with crypto, the problems for consumers, the problems for our economy here, and the problems internationally for our national security. We will continue that. The SEC, I have sent a letter to Secretary Yellen and to all of the regulators, the SEC, the CFPB, the CFTC, the Federal Reserve, the OCC, the FDIC, all these all these federal agencies that can together do the kind of regulatory effort we need to make sure that crypto doesn't harm our economy here and doesn't contribute to illicit finance and all that cyber criminals and crypto and international gun runners and drug traffickers want to do.
So hearings and letters are fine. When I said nothing's been done, I was referring specifically to regulations and protections for working people. Yeah. And yes, it's true that Bankman-Fried gave money to Republicans as well, a lot of it through dark money. But Democrats are in charge of the Senate. You're running things. I'm just wondering, do you think there's even an appearance problem that crypto billionaires give money to Democrats that run the House and run the Senate, at least currently, and there are no new regulations protecting people? And you saw what happened with FTX, all these people whose life savings, whose retirement accounts, poof, gone because there's no regulation.
Well, then that's why I aver. I mean, there are authorities at the SEC and others. They have the authority to do a good bit of this regulation. We still have half the Senate. The Republicans and a handful of Democrats still think crypto's legitimate and that it is something that should be a significant part of our economy. So it's not like we snap our fingers and get a crypto bill through the Senate and through the House. But I've talked to the regulators regularly and will continue to, that they can put regulations out there to protect the public from this kind of consumer fraud and protect our country and our national security in terms of national security from the hackers and the crypto criminals. So we're working on two tracks there. I would love to do something legislatively. I don't know that Congress is capable of that because of crypto's hold on one political party in the Senate and the House. So, but we're trying every day. That's why I'm working with Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, and Gensler at FDI, at SEC, and others to do what they can do to crack down on crypto.
So finally, sir, you're up for re-election in 2024 in Ohio. You're a top target for Republicans. Your friend, Congressman Tim Ryan, just ran as good a race as Democrats could have hoped for against an unpopular Republican in Ohio, and he still lost by 6 points to your new colleague, J.D. Vance. How worried are you ahead of your own re-election bid? Is Ohio even still a swing state?
Of course it is. I'm not worried. I know it's a challenge always, but I'm going about doing my job. I've been to 15 counties talking about the PACT Act, that really important bill that will provide health care to veterans exposed to these football field size burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're working on we delivered on the pension bill. 100,000 Ohio union families are getting their pension restored. Just this week, bricklayers in Northeast Ohio got their pension money finally. We're working on the infrastructure bill and implementation there. So much of what we've done in that first year and a half, of everything from child tax credit to pensions to infrastructure to the CHIPS Act, is